أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. You know, every spiritual journey, it's not a straight line, is it? It happens in stages. As we leave one spiritual state behind, we're called to step into the next one. So today, let's explore this really profound transition, this journey from Surah Najm, the star of brilliant illumination, to Surah Qamar, the moon of reckoning. It's a move from seeing the light to then having to deal with the shadows that light inevitably reveals.
Surah Najm leaves us with this powerful, piercing command. This is a moment of just profound spiritual vision, an invitation into the ultimate nearness with the divine. It's like you've reached the very peak of the mountain, the height of a spiritual ascent. And this is the crucial question that really builds the bridge over to Surah Qamar. Because what happens when you get close to the real, to the truth? Well, the veils that once shielded us from our own stuff, our own shadows, they begin to tear. And that tearing is precisely where this next spiritual chapter begins. So this is a really critical point. Surah Qamar isn't some departure from Najm, not at all. It's its necessary consequence. If Najm is the vision, Qamar is the test of that vision. It's asking the question, okay, can you actually live the truth that you've just been shown? Because every single spiritual unveiling has to be followed by a period of purification. To really get the message of this surah, we have to kind of feel the moment it was revealed. This chapter came down during a really dark and pressurized time in Makkah. Hostility was rising, ridicule was constant, and the early believers were facing this immense emotional and spiritual fatigue. In that context, the surah acts as both a stern warning to its opponents and at the same time a powerful medicine for the believers. Right at the heart of this chapter is the miracle of the splitting of the moon. Now, outwardly, some people saw it and believed, while others just dismissed it as magic. But inwardly, this illustrates a profound spiritual truth. Every true awakening begins with the splitting of a personal illusion, that first decisive crack in the hard shell of the ego. From that point, the surah shifts gears, and it takes us through the stories of past nations. Now, these are not just ancient tragedies to read about. They are reflections. They're mirrors for the patterns of behavior that exist deep within each and every one of us. The outer historical collapses are meant to show us our own potential for an inner collapse. First, we see the archetype of the people of Nuh. Think of this as the part of ourselves that resists guidance, that inner voice that just stays submerged in its own rationalizations and excuses, refusing to get on board the ark of salvation. Then, we encounter the archetype of Ad. This is the ego when it gets intoxicated with its own power and strength. It's that part of the self that feels totally self-sufficient, almighty, and forgets the real source of all of its abilities. Next, we meet the people of Thamud. This is the rebellious self, the part of us that knowingly and arrogantly transgresses the sacred limits that were actually set for our own protection and our own well-being. Following them, we see the archetype of the people of Lut. This represents the state of our desires when they become disconnected from any kind of higher purpose, when they're just unmoored, floating free from any sense of spiritual harmony or order. And finally, we face the ultimate inner tyrant, Fir'aun. This is the part of the ego that denies the real entirely. It's that part that seeks to control everything and everyone, setting up its own sovereignty in defiance of the divine. So as you can probably see, the surah structures itself as this really clear journey through these very mirrors. It starts with that initial tearing of illusion, moves systematically through each of these inner archetypes we just talked about, and it leads every soul to a final, inevitable destination. This entire journey culminates in what's called a final sorting. And it is so crucial to understand this. This isn't about some external punishment from on high. It's about the natural outcome of the inner path we choose to walk. Are we going to cultivate a gardened heart, a state of peace that's earned through purification? Or will we be left with a burning heart, that state of turmoil that comes from abandoning the soul's true design? And this right here, this is the core teaching of Surah Qamar, to pay attention. Spiritual destruction is never some sudden, dramatic event. It begins subtly, as a quiet habit, a recurring whisper, a seemingly harmless pattern, until one day the heart just capsizes. The surah is a call to become aware of these patterns before it's too late. But, and this is what's really beautiful here, there's so much inherent hope woven throughout. This surah isn't just a collection of warnings, it's a guide. It teaches that the very process of facing our inner collapse,
of looking honestly into these reflections in the mirror is itself the path to purification. It's the door back to grace.
So, as we conclude, the Surah leaves us with a deeply personal and maybe even a little unsettling question. It's an invitation to take this chapter not as an ancient history lesson, but as a living mirror for our own spiritual journey. To look inside and honestly ask ourselves, which of these nations lives in you?